I am proud to create him Prince of Wales, Tywysog Cymru, the country whose title I've been so greatly privileged to bear.
Something happened inside Buckingham Palace that, at first glance, looked like a routine royal announcement, the kind of palace update that appears in newspapers for a day before disappearing beneath the next news cycle. But this was not routine, and the deeper royal watchers looked into the details, the more one question began spreading through royal circles, constitutional experts, and even former palace insiders. Was King Charles III quietly preparing the British monarchy for a transition much sooner than anyone expected? 4 months, public attention has focused on King Charles III's ongoing health battle, yet behind the scenes another story has been unfolding, one that involves Prince William, Catherine, Princess of Wales, and a series of decisions that seem increasingly difficult to dismiss as coincidence. What if the monarchy is already shifting in ways that the public has not fully recognized? And more importantly, what if the most important transfer of authority is not happening through a coronation, but through a collection of smaller decisions that, when connected together, reveal a much larger picture? That question has become impossible to ignore because the latest development did not involve a speech, a state visit, or even a constitutional announcement. Instead, it involved one of the most sacred symbols in British history, a collection so valuable and so deeply connected to the legitimacy of the crown that every monarch for centuries has understood its significance. When reports emerged that Catherine, Princess of Wales, had been elevated into a position of extraordinary trust regarding the royal regalia and the future stewardship of the monarchy's most important symbols, many observers immediately saw something far bigger than a ceremonial adjustment. The timing alone raised eyebrows throughout the United Kingdom. King Charles III is not merely an aging monarch approaching the later years of his reign. King Charles III is a sovereign undergoing cancer treatment while simultaneously trying to secure the future stability of an institution that has survived wars, revolutions, abdications, scandals, and political upheaval. Every major decision coming from Buckingham Palace is now viewed through that lens. Every appointment carries added significance. Every transfer of responsibility invites deeper scrutiny. Every appearance by Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, is examined for clues about what the monarchy may look like in the years ahead. Yet this story becomes even more intriguing when we step back and examine what has happened over the last 18 months. While much of the media focused on headlines involving health updates and public engagements, Prince William quietly began assuming responsibilities that historically belonged much closer to the sovereign. Catherine, Princess of Wales, simultaneously emerged from her own health battle not as a reduced public figure, but as an increasingly central pillar of the institution itself. The result is a pattern that many royal commentators now describe as impossible to overlook. Think about it for a moment. If King Charles III genuinely expected business as usual for the next decade, would Buckingham Palace be accelerating the public authority of Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, at such a remarkable pace? Would Catherine, Princess of Wales, be appearing with increasingly significant royal symbolism surrounding every major state occasion? Would responsibilities traditionally associated with future reigns be moving forward into the present? Perhaps these developments are entirely routine. Or perhaps they are something else altogether. What makes this even more fascinating is that royal history teaches us a valuable lesson. The British monarchy rarely announces major transitions before they become unavoidable. Instead, the institution prepares quietly, strategically, and often years before the public fully understands what is taking place. When Queen Elizabeth II gradually increased the visibility of Prince Charles during the later years of her reign, the signs were there long before the formal transition occurred. Those who knew where to look could see the future taking shape in real time. Today, many royal observers believe a similar process may be underway, except this time the focus is not only on Prince William, the future king, but also on Catherine, Princess of Wales, the woman increasingly viewed as the monarchy's greatest asset. Poll after poll has demonstrated Catherine's extraordinary popularity, but popularity alone does not explain what is happening. Trust explains what is happening. Institutional confidence explains what is happening. And perhaps most importantly, succession planning explains what is happening. Because when historians eventually look back on this period, they may not focus first on a future coronation. They may focus on a series of seemingly separate decisions that gradually reveal the monarchy's intentions long before any formal transfer of power took place. They may point to the growing responsibilities of Prince William. They may point to the extraordinary elevation of Catherine, Princess of Wales. They may point to the quiet but unmistakable signals emerging from Buckingham Palace itself. And once those pieces are placed together, a much bigger question emerges, one that is now being asked with increasing frequency both inside and outside royal circles. Is King Charles III simply protecting the future of the monarchy, or is King Charles III actively preparing Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, for responsibilities that may arrive far sooner than the public expects? Because the answer to that question begins with the king's health, the decisions being made behind palace walls, and a timeline that appears to be moving much faster than anyone anticipated. Before we continue, tell us what you think. Do you believe King Charles III is preparing for a normal continuation of his reign, or do you think Buckingham Palace is quietly accelerating the transition toward Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoy deep royal analysis that goes beyond the headlines, subscribe to the channel because the evidence we are about to examine may completely change how you view the future of the British monarchy. The reason that question has become so difficult for Buckingham Palace to avoid is because the discussion is no longer centered entirely on King Charles III's health. Increasingly, the discussion is focused on what King Charles III has been doing while managing the health challenge, and the pattern emerging from those decisions is attracting enormous attention among royal historians, constitutional observers, and longtime followers of the House of Windsor. When King Charles III ascended to the throne following the death of Queen Elizabeth II, many expected a gradual transition period in which Prince William, the future king, would continue learning from a distance while carrying out a supporting role. Instead, something far more unusual began to unfold. Prince William steadily moved closer to the operational center of the monarchy, while Catherine, Princess of Wales, simultaneously became more visible in roles that historically carried enormous symbolic weight. At first, these developments appeared isolated, but when viewed together, they begin to tell a very different story. One of the clearest examples arrived when King Charles III granted Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, authority connected to royal warrants, an honor traditionally associated with the highest levels of royal influence. For many viewers outside the United Kingdom, royal warrants may sound like little more than ceremonial endorsements, yet businesses throughout Britain understand their significance immediately. A royal warrant is not simply a badge. A royal warrant is a declaration that a company has earned the confidence of the monarchy itself. The question that immediately followed was simple. Why accelerate this authority now rather than years later when Prince William eventually becomes king? That question becomes even more interesting when examining Catherine, Princess of Wales. Royal commentators repeatedly noted that Catherine, Princess of Wales, became the first Princess of Wales in more than a century to receive certain levels of authority traditionally absent from the role. Even more remarkable, some royal observers pointed out that Diana, Princess of Wales, despite extraordinary popularity and global influence, never occupied the same position. Whenever a monarchy breaks from long-established patterns, historians pay attention because institutions that survive for centuries rarely make significant changes without a reason. At the same time, another development was quietly unfolding in public view. Catherine, Princess of Wales, was no longer appearing merely as the wife of Prince William. Catherine, Princess of Wales, increasingly appeared as a figure carrying independent institutional significance. State banquets, diplomatic receptions, major ceremonial events, and high-profile engagements began projecting a remarkably consistent image. The image was not simply that of a future queen. The image was of someone already being prepared to embody the continuity of the crown itself. If that interpretation sounds dramatic, consider what happened next. During several major royal occasions, Catherine, Princess of Wales, appeared wearing pieces of royal jewelry associated with some of the most significant women in modern royal history. To casual observers, these appearances may have looked like elegant fashion moments. To experienced royal watchers, however, symbolism matters because symbolism is often how Buckingham Palace communicates without speaking directly. Every tiara, every brooch, and every historic piece carries a message. The obvious question is whether Buckingham Palace was intentionally sending one. Think about this carefully. If King Charles III wanted the public to feel confidence in the monarchy's future despite ongoing concerns surrounding royal health, what would Buckingham Palace do? Would Buckingham Palace issue constant statements discussing succession? Almost certainly not. The British monarchy traditionally avoids direct conversations about future transitions. Instead, the institution projects stability through carefully chosen images. Could the increasing prominence of Catherine, Princess of Wales, be serving exactly that purpose? Meanwhile, Prince William continued assuming responsibilities that looked increasingly monarch-like in nature. Investitures, diplomatic meetings, state functions, and international representation all contributed to a growing perception that Prince William was no longer operating solely as heir to the throne. Prince William appeared to be functioning as an active partner in safeguarding the institution during a period of uncertainty. Royal experts began describing Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, as a fully operational future monarchy already visible within the current reign. Yet perhaps the most revealing aspect of this entire story is not what Buckingham Palace has said. The most revealing aspect may be what Buckingham Palace has not said. Despite growing speculation, despite mounting public curiosity, and despite the increasing number of commentators identifying the same pattern, official explanations have remained remarkably limited. Silence inside royal institutions often carries meaning because silence allows observers to draw conclusions without forcing the monarchy to make declarations it would rather avoid. So where does that leave the future of the House of Windsor? Are Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, simply carrying additional responsibilities during a difficult period? Or are Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, being positioned for a future that Buckingham Palace believes may arrive sooner than expected? The answer may lie in one of the most extraordinary symbols of royal authority, a collection so valuable, so historic, and so closely tied to the legitimacy of the crown that any decision involving it immediately captures attention throughout the world. Before we continue, tell us your view in the comments. Do you believe the growing authority of Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, represents routine preparation, or do you believe King Charles III is quietly accelerating the future of the monarchy? And if you enjoy royal analysis that looks beyond headlines and into the deeper meaning behind palace decisions, make sure to subscribe because the next part of the story takes us directly to the crown jewels themselves, where the symbolism becomes impossible to ignore. If the developments surrounding Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, were enough to raise eyebrows among royal observers, what happened next pushed the conversation into an entirely different category. Suddenly, the discussion was no longer about public engagements, ceremonial responsibilities, or carefully managed appearances. The discussion became centered on one of the most powerful collections of symbols in the entire British monarchy, a collection so deeply connected to royal legitimacy that every major constitutional moment in modern British history has revolved around it in some way. To understand why this matters, it is important to understand what the crown jewels actually represent. Many people imagine the crown jewels as valuable artifacts locked away behind glass displays inside the Tower of London, attracting tourists from around the world. While that description is technically true, it misses the far deeper significance. The crown jewels are not simply historical treasures. The crown jewels are the physical embodiment of royal continuity. Every coronation, every transfer of sovereignty, and every major ceremonial expression of monarchical authority is connected to these objects. When King Charles III was crowned in Westminster Abbey, the symbolism of that moment depended upon regalia that linked King Charles III directly to centuries of British history. That reality is exactly why royal commentators reacted so strongly when Catherine, Princess of Wales, appeared to be moving closer to the institutional heart of those symbols. For years, Catherine, Princess of Wales, had been viewed as an exceptionally successful future queen. More recently, however, Catherine, Princess of Wales, began appearing in ways that suggested something larger was taking place. Historic tiaras returned to public view. Significant royal jewels associated with previous queens appeared on Catherine, Princess of Wales, during major occasions. Longtime royal observers immediately noticed that these choices were not random because Buckingham Palace rarely handles symbolism casually. The question becomes even more intriguing when examining the timing. During a period in which King Charles III continues receiving treatment while simultaneously managing the responsibilities of the crown, Catherine, Princess of Wales, has increasingly become one of the monarchy's most trusted public figures. Public approval ratings consistently place Catherine, Princess of Wales, among the most respected members of the royal family. More importantly, Catherine, Princess of Wales, possesses something that institutions value enormously during periods of uncertainty. Catherine, Princess of Wales, projects stability. Think about the message being sent. If Buckingham Palace wanted to reassure the public that the future of the monarchy remains secure regardless of what challenges emerge in the coming years, who would be best positioned to represent that reassurance? Many royal analysts believe the answer is obvious. Prince William, the future king, represents continuity of the crown. Catherine, Princess of Wales, represents continuity of public trust. Together, Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, increasingly appear to function as a bridge between the current reign and the next one. Yet the symbolism extends far beyond public perception. Throughout royal history, authority has often been communicated through access, visibility, and responsibility long before official titles changed hands. Historians frequently point out that future monarchs are rarely prepared overnight. Future monarchs are gradually exposed to increasingly significant roles until public expectations begin adjusting naturally. When viewed through that historical lens, the growing prominence of Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, begins to look less like a temporary response to circumstances and more like a carefully managed institutional strategy. What makes this interpretation particularly compelling is that Buckingham Palace has never publicly dismissed the broader narrative. Official statements typically focus on individual events rather than the larger pattern connecting those events together. That distinction matters because observers are left to examine the evidence independently. The result is a growing perception that Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, are already operating within a framework designed to prepare the monarchy for any eventual scenario. Now consider another fascinating detail. Throughout modern royal history, transitions have often become visible long before becoming official. Queen Elizabeth II gradually relied more heavily on Prince Charles during later years. King George VI prepared Princess Elizabeth for responsibilities that would ultimately arrive much sooner than expected. The monarchy has always understood the importance of readiness because history rarely waits for perfect timing. Could King Charles III be following that same tradition today? If that possibility sounds dramatic, remember that institutions survive by planning for outcomes rather than hoping circumstances remain unchanged. Buckingham Palace has survived constitutional crises, family divisions, political upheavals, and global conflicts precisely because preparation has always been treated as a necessity rather than an option. Viewed from that perspective, the growing authority of Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, may represent prudent planning rather than imminent transition. Yet even that explanation raises another important question. Why does the pace feel noticeably faster than many royal observers expected? And that is where this story becomes even more fascinating because behind the public symbolism, behind the ceremonial appearances, and behind the growing visibility of Catherine, Princess of Wales, lies an even more controversial discussion. Increasing numbers of royal insiders, commentators, and constitutional observers have begun asking whether the monarchy is quietly preparing for a succession timeline that may be significantly closer than the public realizes. Before we examine those extraordinary claims, tell us what you think. Do you believe the growing prominence of Catherine, Princess of Wales, reflects routine preparation for a future reign, or do you believe Buckingham Palace is signaling something far more immediate? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoy royal analysis that uncovers the deeper meaning behind palace decisions, make sure to subscribe because the next chapter of the story takes us directly into the growing succession debate that Buckingham Palace cannot completely escape. What makes the story so compelling is that the biggest shock may not have been anything Prince William publicly announced. The biggest shock may have been the realization spreading quietly through Buckingham Palace that a completely different style of monarchy could be taking shape. By the time the first days of Prince William's reign were being analyzed by royal observers, the conversation had already moved beyond ceremonial tradition. The focus was now on direction, priorities, and the possibility that Prince William intended to redefine how influence operates at the highest levels of royal life. When historians eventually look back at major royal transitions, they rarely focus only on coronations, proclamations, or official ceremonies. Historians focus on the moments when power began changing shape. Sometimes those moments arrive through dramatic constitutional events. Sometimes those moments emerge through a collection of smaller decisions that reveal a leader's intentions long before formal changes become visible. That is precisely why so many royal commentators became fascinated by reports surrounding Prince William's first days as king. The discussion was no longer centered on what Prince William inherited. The discussion was centered on what Prince William intended to build. The deeper analysts examined the situation, the more one theme appeared repeatedly: purpose. Throughout Prince William's public life, there has been a consistent emphasis on meaningful engagement, measurable impact, and public relevance. Those priorities may seem ordinary in modern institutions, but within a monarchy built upon centuries of tradition, they carry enormous significance. If Prince William genuinely believes that public trust must be earned continuously rather than assumed automatically, then every part of the institution may eventually be evaluated through that lens. That possibility alone helps explain why conversations about influence have intensified so quickly. Now consider what that could mean for Buckingham Palace over the coming years. A monarchy guided primarily by tradition often measures success differently from a monarchy guided by purpose and public expectations. Neither approach is necessarily right or wrong. However, when priorities shift, structures often shift alongside them. Relationships that once held significant influence may find themselves competing with new priorities. Individuals who adapt may gain importance. Individuals who rely solely on historical expectations may discover that the environment has changed. This is one reason speculation surrounding Queen Camilla's wider circle continues attracting attention despite the absence of any major public confrontation. Think about this question for a moment. If Prince William's vision centers on creating a more focused and accountable institution, who benefits most from that approach? Do long-established networks become stronger because of their experience, or do newer voices gain influence because they align more closely with future priorities? The answer may reveal far more about the next decade of royal life than any official statement ever could. At the center of that future stands Catherine, Princess of Wales. By this stage, it has become increasingly difficult to discuss Prince William's future reign without discussing Catherine, Princess of Wales, alongside him. Over many years, Kate Middleton developed into one of the. Think about the broader picture for a moment. If King Charles III wanted to strengthen confidence in the future of the crown during a period of uncertainty, who would better represent that future than Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales? The answer may seem obvious now, but that only raises another question. If the future appears so clearly defined, why does Buckingham Palace appear increasingly eager to showcase that future today rather than years from now? The answer may lie in history itself. Royal history is filled with moments when preparations became visible before official transitions occurred. Future monarchs have often been introduced gradually to the public in increasingly prominent roles. What makes the current situation different is the pace. Many observers expected Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, to grow into these responsibilities over a decade or more. Instead, the process appears compressed. That perception may ultimately prove inaccurate, but the fact that so many experienced royal analysts share the same observation is difficult to dismiss entirely. Another factor fueling speculation is the silence surrounding long-term plans. Buckingham Palace rarely comments on succession timelines because doing so would create unnecessary uncertainty. However, silence has a unique consequence. Silence creates space for interpretation. Every public appearance by King Charles III, every major engagement involving Prince William, and every significant role undertaken by Catherine, Princess of Wales, becomes part of a larger conversation. The result is a narrative that continues growing even without official confirmation. Now consider one final detail that often receives less attention than it deserves. Throughout every major challenge facing the modern monarchy, from political uncertainty to family controversies, institutions have relied heavily upon public confidence. Confidence cannot be commanded. Confidence must be earned. Over the past several years, Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, have steadily accumulated that confidence. Whether through charitable initiatives, diplomatic engagements, or symbolic moments of leadership, Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, have increasingly become the faces most associated with the monarchy's future. So where does that leave King Charles III? That question may be the most important of all, because the answer determines how historians eventually interpret this entire period. Will historians conclude that King Charles III simply acted as a careful steward preparing the next generation responsibly? Or will historians look back and identify these years as the opening phase of a transition that quietly began long before the public realized what was happening? As fascinating as that question is, the next chapter takes us somewhere even more revealing. Because beyond the symbolism, beyond the public appearances, and beyond the growing authority of Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, lies a deeper issue that Buckingham Palace cannot completely control: public perception. And when public perception begins aligning with institutional actions, extraordinary things can happen very quickly. Before we continue, share your opinion below. Do you believe King Charles III is simply planning responsibly, or do you believe Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, are already functioning as the monarchy's future leadership team in everything but title? Let us know in the comments. And if you are enjoying this deep royal analysis, subscribe to the channel, because the final chapter brings together all the evidence and explores what may happen next inside the House of Windsor. And that brings us to the question that may ultimately define this entire chapter of royal history. What if the most important transition inside the British monarchy is not waiting for a future date at all? What if the transition has already begun, not through a dramatic constitutional announcement, not through an abdication, and not through a coronation, but through a series of carefully calculated decisions that have gradually moved Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, closer to the center of royal authority? When historians study institutions that survive for centuries, one lesson appears again and again. The strongest institutions rarely wait for a crisis before preparing for change. Instead, the strongest institutions create continuity long before continuity becomes necessary. Viewed through that lens, many of the developments surrounding King Charles III begin to look less like isolated events and more like pieces of a much larger strategy. The increased responsibilities given to Prince William, the future king, the extraordinary visibility of Catherine, Princess of Wales, the growing symbolism surrounding royal regalia and historic traditions. None of these developments exist in isolation. Together, these developments create a picture that becomes increasingly difficult to ignore. Yet perhaps the most fascinating aspect of this story is not what it reveals about King Charles III. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect is what it reveals about Catherine, Princess of Wales. For years, public discussion focused on Catherine, Princess of Wales, as a future queen. Today, many royal observers are asking a different question entirely. Has Catherine, Princess of Wales, already become the monarchy's most important stabilizing figure? The remarkable rise of Kate Middleton from university student to one of the most trusted public figures in Britain is no longer simply a royal success story. The rise of Catherine, Princess of Wales, increasingly appears to be central to the monarchy's long-term survival strategy. Think about how extraordinary that transformation really is. When Catherine, Princess of Wales, entered the royal family, public attention often centered on fashion, public appearances, and comparisons with previous royal figures. Today, conversations surrounding Catherine, Princess of Wales, focus on leadership, continuity, public trust, and institutional stability. Few royal figures in modern history have undergone such a dramatic evolution in public perception. Even fewer have done so while navigating personal health challenges, intense global scrutiny, and the immense pressure that comes with standing one step away from the throne. That reality helps explain why so many analysts continue focusing on Catherine, Princess of Wales, whenever discussions turn toward the future. Public confidence is one of the monarchy's most valuable assets, and public confidence cannot be inherited automatically. Public confidence must be earned over time. Through years of consistent public service, Catherine, Princess of Wales, has built a level of credibility that extends far beyond traditional royal audiences. Whether appearing at state occasions, charitable engagements, diplomatic functions, or moments of national significance, Catherine, Princess of Wales, has become a symbol of reliability during an era often defined by uncertainty. At the same time, Prince William, the future king, has steadily emerged as a leader prepared for responsibilities that continue expanding year after year. Unlike previous generations, Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, increasingly operate as a unified public partnership rather than separate royal figures pursuing independent paths. That distinction matters because modern monarchies depend heavily on public connection. The image of Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, working together has become one of the strongest representations of continuity available to the institution today. But here's where the story becomes truly remarkable. The debate is no longer centered on whether Prince William will become king. The debate is no longer centered on whether Catherine, Princess of Wales, will become queen. Those outcomes are already understood. The real debate now revolves around timing. How quickly could circumstances change? How rapidly could responsibilities expand further? And how much of the future framework is already operating behind the scenes at Buckingham Palace today? Those questions remain unanswered because only a small group of people inside the highest levels of the monarchy truly understand every detail of the long-term planning process. What the public can see, however, is a pattern. The public can see Prince William assuming increasingly significant responsibilities. The public can see Catherine, Princess of Wales, occupying a more central role within the institution. The public can see King Charles III carefully shaping the future while continuing to fulfill the duties of sovereign. Whether these developments ultimately prove to be routine preparation or the early stages of a larger transition remains one of the most compelling royal questions of our time. And perhaps that is why this story has captured so much attention across the world. At its heart, this is not merely a story about titles, ceremonies, jewels, or palace traditions. This is a story about succession, legacy, preparation, and the future of one of the most recognizable institutions on Earth. The decisions being made today may ultimately shape how the monarchy functions for decades to come. So before we end, we want to hear from you. After looking at the growing responsibilities of Prince William, the future king, the extraordinary rise of Catherine, Princess of Wales, and the broader pattern emerging from Buckingham Palace, do you believe the monarchy is already preparing for a transition that could arrive sooner than expected? Or do you believe King Charles III is simply acting as a careful steward of the crown while maintaining a long-term vision for stability? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because this debate is only becoming more fascinating with every passing month. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the future of the British monarchy, make sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and join us for future royal analysis as we continue examining the stories, signals, and palace decisions that often reveal far more than the headlines themselves. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.